Hey guys, this is Dagon123, and welcome to
Tenchicast.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the next exciting episode of Tenchicast, presented by Tenchiforum.com. The 25th anniversary of Tenchi Muyo is well underway, and NBC Universal in Japan has decided to celebrate it by going into the Tenchi Vault and releasing some pieces of Tenchi history on Blu-ray for the very first time. But before we get into all that madness, I'd like to introduce the fantastic cast I have with me today. Nil.
Why am I whittling? Because that's what you do in a town where a yellow light still means slow down, not go faster.
Pie.
Shut up and take my money.
And Snow Queen.
Hi, everybody.
So, let's get right down to it. NBC Universal, who was once Geneon Universal, who was once Geneon, who was once Pioneer, are releasing 7 different sets on Blu-ray starting in September. On September 5th, we are getting re-releases of Tenchi OVAs 1 and 2 on budget Blu-ray. But most importantly, we are getting Tenchi Universe for the first time on Blu-ray. On September 28th, we are getting a re-release of the movie trilogy Blu-ray box and Tenchi in Tokyo on Blu-ray for the first time. After that, on October 11th, we are getting Dual Parallel Trouble Adventures and Pretty Sammy on Blu-ray. The Pretty Sammy set will include the TV series as well as the 3-episode OVA. So now that we've got all of that information out of the way, Nil, would you like to regale us how you broke the news?
So I was browsing through Twitter. I follow some Japanese Tenchi fans on there. They usually post some wonderful art. They have their own kind of community over there. You know, we haven't really had quite as much intersection with over the years, but they have been having a much greater presence lately. So I was just kind of browsing through Twitter on my phone, trying to catch up on some of the stuff that I'd missed while I was busy working on some other stuff. And I just so happened to notice that one of the fans had posted a link to, was it CD Japan was the link that I found? I can't remember. There was some website they linked to that had a listing for Tenchi Muyo TV Blu-ray set. A set of words that I did not think I would see together in my lifetime. And so I was scrolling past it, and I immediately just my finger slammed on the screen and scrolled back up to make sure I saw that sentence completely right. Tenchi Muyo TV, that's Tenchi Universe. That's Tenchi Universe Blu-ray they're talking about. This, so I clicked on it, and there was a listing for Tenchi Muyo TV, and the description matched Universe. So I just came in. I was like, oh my god, Dagon Pie crazed, you guys, Tenchi Universe Blu-rays. But then there's a little bit of confusion too, because I went back to look at the source, the person who had posted it, and I clicked on a different link and found a listing for Tenchi in Tokyo on Blu-ray as well. So that was an extra surprise, because I just thought it was Universe, but there was a Tokyo Blu-ray that was listed as well. And this was, I started looking around to see if this was just if this had any legitimacy. And there were listings available on about a dozen different Japanese media websites, places you can go to purchase Blu-rays and DVDs and CDs and whatnot. That was real. And a little bit later on, we also found out that this is part of a 25th anniversary celebration of the Tenchi Muyo franchise by NBC Universal Japan, as they will also be producing a Blu-ray set for Dual Parallel Trouble, which I believe we have maybe a fan or two still alive who enjoyed that, and a set for Pretty Sammy as well, which includes the OVA and TV series. So we just had a whole lot come to us at once. We'd been talking about this for years. How great would it be to have Tenchi Universe on Blu-ray? Or what about Tenchi in Tokyo? Because there are people who do like that. Like that'd be nice to have on Blu-ray. Anyways, it's part of the series, so why not? For all this time, we've only really had the OVA and the movies. Did GXP get a Blu-ray? I don't think it did it? So yeah, like that's it. Like we've only had the movies, which are just gorgeous, and the OVA, which is also gorgeous in Blu-ray quality. So that was kind of a week maker right there. Just kind of scrolling along, going about my usual business, and finding out, hey, that dream that you've been thinking of for all these years, it's finally here, and it's finally happening this year in September.
I found out the news like a day after. Like apparently it was like a couple days before I realized it, and I was just very excited for it. I personally don't have a Blu-ray because I live in the dinosaur age, but it's very exciting to know there's Blu-rays out there now because I'm sure there's a lot of new fans that don't have any Tenchi DVDs yet, and they're quite hard to come by, especially the old Pioneers, and the box sets are quite expensive. But if you're all wanting new Tenchi DVDs and Blu-rays and whatnot, now is the perfect time. Just wait for the Blu-rays. I think it's very exciting.
To say that I was excited would be an understatement, because back in the day, right after I finished in 2014, which of course I was part of the celebration of the franchise back in 2014. It was it was just shortly after the 20th anniversary of Tenchi being released originally in Japan, and again from 1992 until 2012, which is probably where the planning stages started, and then 2014 is when I was actually released. After I finished releasing, or right around the time I finished releasing, Hiroshi Negishi, who is the director of not only I, Tenchi, but also Tenchi Universe and Tenchi Mugen Love 1 and 2, he went to Twitter and was talking about, like, yeah, these are my projects. Here's some of the things that were behind the scenes. This is how we found out about Tenchi Mugen Love 3 was going to be a thing in 2009, and then that fell apart and was repurposed into I, Tenchi, and a few other nice little nuggets. But one of the things that was mentioned, someone tweeted, I forget who tweeted specifically at Negishi and said, hey, we getting Tenchi Universe Blu-rays anytime soon? This is back in 2014. Negishi says back, it's like, yeah, we had actually sent out some things about Tekkamen Blade Blu-ray, which is another big anime that I love. But I should have talked about NBC Universal and said, hey, what about those Tenchi Universe Blu-rays? And hey, I might have had to wait 4 years, but I'm getting what is arguably my favorite anime of all time, Tenchi Universe, on Blu-ray finally. Again, keep in mind that Tenchi Universe, Tenchi in Tokyo, and I think Duel as well, and Pretty Sammy, the OVA and TV for sure, were all made on cells. In which case, what probably took a long time to do was to go through, rescan the cells, clean them up, go through the digital remastering process, and actually make them look good. That's one of the things that made the OVA Blu-rays look so gorgeous, was they meticulously went through and cleaned those things up and made them look gorgeous. And I love the art in Tenchi Universe. It's Hiroyuchi Horiuchi was one of the main architects and concept designers for not only Tenchi Universe, but also Tenchi Mugen Love. And I love his art style, and to see his art style is also used for some of the insert images for the Hasegawa novels as well. Which, if you've seen Red Hexagram, you've seen some of his insert art in there alongside Hayashi's art as well as Kadishima's art. And to see Horiuchi's designs from Tenchi Universe, specifically like the last 4 episodes when the plot really ramps up and becomes really dramatic, I would almost kill to have all of that in Blu-ray quality, and it's coming, and I'm a happy man.
Well, thankfully, Pi, you don't have to kill anybody.
Hey.
I had the sentiment that everybody else had. We had talked about this for such a long time that I never actually thought that we would get it. I truly believed that it's hard not to be a little bit pessimistic, because they didn't go chronologically the first time. They released the first 2 OVA, what we got over here in America as Pioneer's Ultimate Edition set, and then the movies on Blu-ray. And those are great. Like, those were definitely great as something to really tide people over, but then there's this big long waiting period. And we didn't hear anything. And then, like Pi said, Nagishi said, oh, shucks, it would have been great if I would have done something with. And then, all of the things that we have talked about in the iCasts and so on about how Nagishi has kind of disavowed AIC to a degree. And so we thought it's never going to happen. We're never going to see Universe on Blu-ray. We're never going to see Tokyo and so on. So when I saw that news, it was like Christmas came a little bit early. And to see, too, that NBC is propping it up as the 25th anniversary of Tenchi, like it's their celebration of Tenchi Muyo, I think that's a really big deal. And it's funny, actually, because we first initially, like, when Nil broke it, we saw Tokyo and Universe, and we're like, oh my god, this is so great, this is so cool. And then, not long after that, we saw the Dual Link, the Pretty Sammy link. I actually think the Pretty Sammy one is interesting because it includes two different sets. It has the OVA as well as the TV series. So, there's a part of me that, obviously, to anybody who's listening, this is only in Japan. But the important part is that these series have never been released on Blu-ray, but it's not going to be an upscale because AIC or NBC Universal's original releases are beautiful looking, which you now have as Funimation releases over here. But we know, we could, or not even know, but we could guesstimate pretty well because the original Blu-ray sets that got released had the English dubs, the Pioneer English dubs with them, and they were much more expensive. These releases for Tokyo and Duel and all of them, they do not have English subtitles, they do not have the English dub, and they're all priced at roughly 11,566 yen, which is roughly about $100 American dollars. That means that they were made specifically in mind that they were going to be picked up by someone else, because NBC Universal obviously still has the dubs to those to some degree. And so it's only a matter of time at this point. And a couple of different fans have tagged me on Twitter or responded and tagged Funimation and said, hey, Funimation, I want this. Let's get this. Let's make this happen. And it's exciting. It's super exciting. Tenchiforum just kind of had a rebirth a little bit. We came back into the fold after a not necessarily wanted hiatus, and it's just been this blossoming celebration. And it's been super exciting, and I hope that everybody who listens to this gets hyped because so much stuff is coming out this year. It's the summer of Tenchi, truly.
I think there is an exceptionally high chance that we will see at least Universe and Tokyo here with the the Funimation providing the English dubs and subs, because first off we have the iDub, which we broke the news about before anybody else. We had the scoops on that. And obviously Funimation, was putting some effort into that by going through the very difficult process of separating with their money to properly pay the people who they should be paying properly to reprise their roles. But as well, we're also seeing Seven Seas, another localization company, bringing over the Shin Tenchi novels, light novels being translated for Tenchi Muyo in 2018. It's pretty crazy. So to say the least, there's definitely a resurgence of interest in Tenchi as a series. And I think if does well, if the light novels do well enough, that will signal to the people who are paying attention to these numbers that Tenchi is something worth investing in. And I think that there's a very, very high chance that will equate to us seeing at least Universe and Tenchi and Tokyo Blu-rays over here. Pretty Sammy, possibly. It definitely, as an offshoot, it definitely kind of like languished in popularity compared to the others over here. And with the subject matter being so different than the rest of the Tenchi series as a whole, it obviously has some people who love it because they love Sasami and they like the like crossovers with the other characters and like the reframing of Tenchi in that fashion as like a parody of magical girl shows from the 90s. But I'm not sure. I imagine that if they go through the trouble, they'll probably do everything. Duel is kind of a question mark, but I think there is still a market for that over here. The one thing to note, we talked about how Nagishi was on Twitter, kind of like being really chatty at the end of I and letting people kind of get a peek into the production process of things, which is pretty great open communication for a series that has typically not had very much outside communication that we've been able to at least, actively participate in. When we asked about the Universe Blu-rays and he said he was kicking himself for not bringing it up at NBC Universal Japan, that definitely felt like it was the end of days for our hopes and dreams, because who knew when he was going to get the opportunity to sit in front of the president's desk and be like, so I did this show in the 90s. But one of the challenges that they seem to be facing that should have clued us in that something might have been coming in the first place was actually another Tenchi-related series, El Hazard, which received a Blu-ray set as well from NBC Universal Japan. That set, absolutely gorgeous. The transfer, the box set itself is very... well, they do have two different sets. They have the special set, which was the only one available for the longest time, and they now have a budget set that has less of the extra materials, but it's still a very impressive set. And something that Nagishi had talked about when it came time for Tekkaman Blade's Blu-ray set was that one of the challenges that they were facing was that they wanted to use a new cell animation transfer technique, one that would allow for greater accuracy, while also being cheaper than the current way that they were doing things. Because for the few people who were following the drama with the El Hazard Blu-ray box set, that was actually delayed by, I think, 2 years because of production issues. And I think that was just because they were really trying to get this new technique figured out. And when that came out and we saw the video quality and just how perfect it looked. Like, it looked how you remembered it looking, but as high quality as the modern standards of video quality would allow. And that should have been a signal that, hey, they they finally got that figured out. Tekkaman Blade's Blu-ray transfer, while I haven't seen it myself, I have heard that things are looking pretty good with it, at least. The big thing there should have been wow, I guess they got that figured out. So I wonder what that would mean for future releases. Like, what else could they possibly be planning to do with this technique? And I'm pretty excited to see how this is going to end up looking for these old shows. Because, God, over here at least, the only releases that we've had for Universe and Tenchi in Tokyo have been Blu-ray, or not Blu-ray, have been DVD releases that I think were just VHS transfers. The quality was kind of lacking, but it was the best that we had, really. So this is really exciting and kind of neat from a technical perspective, just because of how much effort that NBC Universal has been putting into kind of trying to pioneer, wink wink, this new technique, whatever it is.
One of the things that I had thought about as well, kind of going into this, we talk about the Japanese fans. We've actually talked to a couple pretty intimately on our Discord server, and one of the things that I thought was pretty interesting, one of the ones that we have named Eboshi, has talking about how a lot of anime fans in general are refinding Tenchi Muyo via Tenchi Universe because it's available on Amazon Japan, Amazon Prime Japan. And I thought it was just very interesting to hear how they, Tenchi finding Ryoko the first time, they found this thing that was a gem that, just because of the lack of, even a streaming release in Japan, had created this new buzz. But something I thought about was, this is obviously the 25th anniversary. If they're going all the way back to Duel, as far as things to talk about, I figured I'd pose the question in here: do you guys think that somebody somewhere is trying to get something new off the ground for Tenchi? Because obviously we have that Pretty Sammy fundraiser thing that failed miserably, but that also wasn't mainline Tenchi, like you had talked about, Neil. It's a little bit more fringe, even though obviously, Sammy.
I think I was the breath of fresh air that we needed. It kind of brought back Tenchi for a lot of us and kind of gave us the good old nostalgia vibe. And I think everybody who watched it probably felt the same way. And if you don't, then that's okay too. But I think it was the gateway to like having these Blu-rays, and I'm hoping in the future that we get like the Blu-rays will be like, a gateway to merchandise, like t-shirts, figurines, all that fun stuff. Like I would throw my money at all that stuff because Tenchi merchandise is kind of lacking, and I would like to see some more. And especially by then maybe it's a possibility to have a gateway to a new series, which I would definitely like, whether it's a short like iTenchi or just a brand new like TV format. Just I wouldn't really want something that's a continuum of like I wouldn't want like another like Kagato thing or yeah, I just want something new. Just anything that just kind of gives the main cast like their spotlight back.
Would I like to see a new Tenchi show? Yeah. Yes, I would. I would love to see another Tenchi show in the vein of, say, the first OVA or Tenchi Universe again. Hell, even Tenchi in Tokyo. Sure, I'd like to. We've flirted with the idea in some of the No Need for Future casts off and on that would we want to see a continuation? Would we want to see a reboot? And I've been fairly vocal in my belief that one probably should reboot the franchise in some way, shape, or form. Some of the old threads, as Snowy pointed out just now, have kind of petered out. Don't want to really retread the old same ground again. Although at the same time, I could also see using like modern animation techniques, kind of give a new breath of fresh air, reboot, say the first OVA or universe into a new skin, and then keep going with it and see what happens to it. Tenchi for a new age, one might say. Certainly, much like any other reboot that we've seen in the past, like Star Trek or Star Wars hasn't been rebooted yet, but give it time. Spider-Man's been rebooted 3 times in my lifetime so far. I would say that a fresh start would be a good place. The original show's not going away; it's still here, and it's getting Blu-ray release with high quality transfers. It's a good time to be a Tenchi fan, man. If they do put out merchandise, I'll go ahead and tell you right now that if they give me a Nagi figure, I'm buying that day one. I'm going to pre-order that. If they give me the Knights, if they give me hell, just the Arby's put out a thing with the whatever burger they were promoting at the time with 2 Azaka and Kamidake looking salt shakers standing around it. I wanted those so bad. If Funimation, AIC, whoever's listening to this, if you give me those, I will pay you money. I will pay you greenbacks for those.
This year, I'm not sure. Obviously the hype levels are high enough that you would want to, and the anticipation for one is big enough that you could definitely see one happening, but I'm not sure if that's quite in the works. Now, we had a couple years ago, and obviously they just wrapped up OVA 4 fairly recently. I think that was mid last year was when it finally wrapped up. It was early last year. So obviously somebody up there is thinking, where do we go with this next? And who is going to be involved in where Tenchi goes from here is also up in the air, because as we were talking with some of the Japanese fans, they let us know that one of the things that Kajishima has mentioned in his kind of public communications, as infrequent as they are with the fans, that he's not getting any younger, and while he has plans for Tenchi, quote unquote, they think that he's talking more of the overarching universe type stuff, not Tenchi universe rather, but the the connected, extended Kajishima verse with GXP and War on Geminar. They think that his eyes are looking more towards something of that nature than a continuation directly off of OVA 4, as he did sound like he kind of wanted to give a finality to Tenchi. I believe one of the afterwards that we translated before we ended up having to take a break was that he said that it was, he wanted to finish that story, as it were. And I don't know if he still feels that way all these years later, but it definitely seems like he is thinking about other stuff. We have seen quite a few if-style doujins as well that show different characters, different places that have very similar aesthetics that we all recognize as his trademarks, and definitely from Tenchi's designs in general. But we don't know if any of those are going to come together as something that would be animated, or what connection they would have to the Tenchiverse, if at all. So it's hard to say who would be in charge and what direction it would go. Would it focus on Tenchi Misaki and all the girls that you've come to know and love over the years? Would it be another spin-off or side story? I don't think anybody can really say for sure. With the way they're ramping things up in terms of the Blu-ray production, there could be something coming up in the future. But I think it's really just, there's too much up in the air right now for me to really say, because I don't know if they're getting Nagishi back at this point. I think he's moved on to Saber Marionette full time. But I would definitely be excited for it, for whatever would come next.
Well, I can definitely throw my 2 cents in and say that obviously, if it was something Tenchi related, it's exciting to a degree. I'll be honest with everybody though. I think a lot of people also share this sentiment that the 4th OVA was boring and just not really worth watching. And I think that kind of, if I'm remembering correctly, Kajishima had even said in one of the Comic Cat doujins, which, I mean, this is Kajishima talking, so he could just be blowing smoke like he always does, because that's all he does, is that he's like, this is the last one. This is the final one that I intend to do. And then there are rumblings that he says he's, storyboarding a 5th OVA. So, I mean, I'm not particularly interested in that at all. However, I would love to be surprised like it was with Ai Tenchi Muyo, because Ai Tenchi Muyo came out of nowhere. Nobody expected it, and it just dropped. Or the news of it dropped, and that this new series was coming out. There's also the added element of AIC themselves. As we were talking with Eboshi, like, the consensus among the Japanese fans who are still following it is that AIC is not doing well at all. And I think that a big indicator of that was the failure of the Pretty Sammy, the short. Look at Kenichi Sonoda's new Riding Bean project, his Bean Bandit project. It's basically going to get funded. It was supposed to run the exact same time, 5 minutes, as the Pretty Sammy short was going to be. Obviously, Kenichi Sonoda has a following, but, I mean, Riding Bean does not have the same kind of following that Gunsmith Cats had, in the same way that Pretty Sammy does not have the same following that Tenchi had. But I personally believe that Pretty Sammy was a bigger series. Now, the failure of that Kickstarter, or whatever that Japanese crowdfunding thing was on AIC's part, was the fact that it wasn't worldwide. They didn't announce it at an American convention. It didn't have the whole world looking at it. I think they went about it that way wrong. But still, to only get 10% of their funding, whereas Kenichi Sonoda's Riding Bean project can basically get funded in like 2-3 weeks, I think really goes to show not only the fact that AIC is trying to crowdfund a project, but that they themselves, I don't think they have the money for an OVA anymore. I don't think the Japanese fans don't believe that they have the money for that anymore. And so it's funny, we talk about NBC Universal. They were originally Pioneer, who was originally the distributor and producer for Tenchi Muyo in the 90s. There's a part of me that would kind of wish that I personally believe that if AIC wanted to get something done, they could absolutely go back to NBC Universal and be like, look, we want to make this happen. And NBC Universal would jump on it because they were smart. They knew, they understood. That's why they're releasing all this stuff at the same time, because they know calling it a celebration and doing it during the 25th anniversary, you're going to get eyes involved. People love those old series. They're now getting it on, Amazon, streaming in Japan. They got it. They know how to do it. And so, do I personally think one's going to happen this year? I'd like to see it, but I don't think it's going to happen. If something does happen, I would hope that they would branch out a little bit and maybe try and not have it be, put all their eggs in one basket. Like, the Leiji-verse, the fans of Space Battleship Yamato and Harlock and Madel and all that. They've got 3 different movies coming out based on 3 different parts of the franchise in the Leijiverse. Do the same thing with Tenchi. Announce 3 movies. Do one for the OVA, do one for a whole new continuity that no one's ever seen, and then do one for Universe, or Negishi's, or something new from Hasegawa even. Do another one of her novels. Keep it so that you don't, like, if something like OVA 4 happens and it's boring and shit, you're not wasting time. You're not wasting fans' time. You're not wasting AIC's time. That'd be my guess. Do I think that'll get announced this year? No, but it'd be pretty sweet.
To chime in, I would probably agree that they're probably not going to do anything immediately. They're probably going to see how well these Blu-rays sell first, to see if, kind of gauging interest. Here's all the old stuff in the best quality we can provide you, new techniques of transfer, everything. Here's all the stuff from that you remember. Okay, now we sit back and watch, see how the numbers tick up and tick up and tick up. And if these sets do well, it's possible that they say, okay, Tenchi is more viable than we thought it was. Unlike reports we had back in the day that Tenchi was reported as essentially a dead stick, and Tenchi had to be partially funded by the city of Takahashi to get off the ground again. If these sets do well, hey, there's a market for this. What can we do? And with a lot of trends in anime of adapting manga, adapting light novels, we have a backlog of material from Hasegawa's 13 novels. Only one of them, the 10th novel, oddly enough, which was Daughter of Darkness, i.e. Midsummer's Eve, was turned into a film for release. It was only 60 minutes long. Then you also have all of Okuda's manga laying around, just gathering dust, not getting adapted. That could be something to be used as well. And you could say, hey, we're adapting the official manga release that's tied into the first OVA and all this. And same thing with Hasegawa's novels. There's a plethora of material if they choose to make use of it. And if they decide not to use that, I mean, it's not like they can't make something new. Get a new director in here with fresh ideas, give them the baseline idea what Tenchi is, and go for it. It worked for Transformers when Beast Wars came out back in the late 90s.
I would actually really love to see the manga become an anime, just because that's just been a dream of mine for a while. And that's what Sailor Moon Crystal did. Like, the original Sailor Moon is not based off the manga at all, whereas Sailor Moon Crystal is totally based off the manga, and that seems to do pretty well. So to see, it could definitely work for Tenchi for sure, and I would definitely love to see that. Even if it was just the first couple of volumes animated, that's enough for me. I would definitely love to see that, but who would direct it? Who would animate it? Would Okuda come back and do that? I don't know. It's just kind of an idea in the air right now, but that would be great.
We know that Okuda's been kind of floating around the Tenchi sphere as he was doing the official artwork, at least most of the official artwork. I think Kajishima did a few pieces as well. When OVA 4 was still in production, well, I guess Tenchi Muyo the Fourth, as it officially is called, and Okuda was doing promotional artwork for the official website for that. So we know he's been around. I'd be interested to see if they would do something like that, like adapt the manga and bring him on to be like the visual director, so that they would maintain his style, which I think was, it's definitely different enough from the other series to set it apart, and it's got a very old school vibe that would clean up kind of nicely. I think would definitely be something that could attract an audience. They had redesigns for which were very modern, and that reception was fairly mixed. Some people felt that the designs were too modern, while others, were perfectly okay with it. And I think Okuda's style could be modernized a little bit in a way that I think would still be clean enough to appear modern while still pleasing fans of vintage anime. So that'd be kind of neat if they could get him back, because he's definitely got his hand in the door right now.
I think that's a really good idea, Snowy, because I think the manga is one of the last things that I think a lot of classic Tenchi fans remember, as far as like from the old days in that way. And there, especially in modern anime fandom now, there's such a dogma related to doing something originally from a manga. Like, if you ask somebody something they will, bias even. People will say, oh, well, did they do that from the manga? And I think, one, that would be really good because you have people who would say, oh, it's from the No Need for Tenchi manga, or oh, it's from this part of the all-new Tenchi Muyo, and people could go back to that manga and really rediscover it or discover it for the first time. And, talking about the art style, honestly, I think Okuda's style is soft enough that it would appeal to a modern audience without having to change it too much. I think you'd have to modernize it a little bit, but overall, I think because people are so used to that style, there wouldn't be such a style clash like there was with where the expectation was, I think they were a little bit too far away from the original, with the exception of Tenchi and Ayaka and maybe Sasami. I think Ryoko was really the one that kind of threw people off the most just because her hair wasn't, super spiky. And getting Okuda to do that would be kind of cool, and like Nil said, he's still around. They still have him do art from time to time, so he's still kind of in the ether. Hell, I'd even like to see him do another new manga if he wanted to. Do the all-new Tenchi Muyo again or something, or again Tenchi Muyo. Right now, 25th anniversary of Tenchi Muyo, it's exciting to be a fan, both English and Japanese. I mean, just in the last month or so, we've gotten probably almost 100 people in our Discord since the forum has opened back up. I mean, it's been crazy. And I think that's what kind of people are feeling. They're feeling the vibe. So I'm hoping that the vibe that the fans are having here in Japan and elsewhere kind of gets to them and kind of hits them again. It's been 4 years since I Tenchi Muyo, something new. And so I think that people are ready for something new again. I think they could feel that. Well, everybody, I'd say that about wraps up everything that we wanted to talk about tonight. Is there anything anybody else would like to add?
Funimation, license this now.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, celebrating with us for Tenchicast episode 35. If you like what we do, head on over to Tenchiforum.com, jump into our Discord, say hello, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, on iTunes, subscribe on YouTube, and you know what they say about the carnival. Even the people that say they were willing to put up the carnival rides for good are willing to come back and celebrate. So, until next time, stay gold.